Rory really was one of the best guitar players of our time. When Jimi Hendrix was asked how it felt to be the world's best guitar player, he apparently said, "I don't know, ask Rory Gallagher." Hey everybody, welcome to John's Guitar Lounge. I'm Johnny Stewart, and today I'm going to talk to you about Rory Gallagher, and I'm going to show you this amazing book that I just got, and I'm going to flip through every single page in this throughout this video, so you're not going to be looking at me talk. You're going to see all of Rory's guitars going to auction on October 17th of this year in England at Bonhams. Now this book is something that's not really available to the public, and that's why I want to show you everything in it, because there's some amazing stuff in here, and I just got it yesterday. Bonhams sent it to me because I was the lucky winning bidder of Peter Green's Flying V2, his Gibson Flying V2 guitar, a couple years ago when it went to auction through Bonhams. And so they sent me this because I think they want me to bid again. I'm going to put a link to that video where I play this and unboxed it right here so you can watch all that. So first, as we start to go through here, if you've never heard of Rory Gallagher, which it's possible that you haven't because he passed away back in 1995. And look, right in the cover here, here are quotes by Joe Bonamassa and Slash and Ed Sheeran and a bunch of other incredible musicians talking about how amazing Rory was, and here are some great pictures. And I think there are going to be some incredible pictures throughout this whole thing. There's Rory's Strat. Rory really was one of the best guitar players of our time. Rory has been compared to Jimi Hendrix, and there's even a quote floating around out there. And there's a nice picture of him holding his iconic Strat, and I'll talk more about that Strat in a minute, because that is expected to bring upwards of $1 million US money, maybe even more, at auction because of what that guitar means. And Guitar Hero, and that's true. Wow, and it looks like there's a lot written in here about this. So if you want to read all this stuff, you can just pause the video, and I'm going to try and hold it so that you can see it and you can zoom in on each of these pages here, because there's a nice picture of him acting a little bit goofy, but there he is with the first guitar, lot number 1. It's a lap steel guitar. And so I'm not going to talk about every single guitar here, but I do want to tell you more about Rory. And he also played the mandolin and a bunch of stuff. But Rory has sometimes been called the Irish Jimi Hendrix, and that's no small accolade, because there's a quote floating around out there from Jimi Hendrix in around 1969, 1970, when Jimi Hendrix was asked how it felt to be the world's best guitar player. He apparently said, "I don't know, ask Rory Gallagher." Now, some people say that that was tongue-in-cheek because there was so much press at the time about Rory, and Jimmy might have been a little jealous, but either way, just the fact that he was mentioned back then as Jimi Hendrix's contemporary and equal is really, really something. Now, Rory played a lot of blues, obviously, and he was really the first Irish blues rocker to come out. And you had bands like Cream, obviously, in the 60s, and you had, John Mayall's Blues Breakers and stuff, and Clapton, and you had Fleetwood Mac and obviously Peter Green and incredible guitar players coming out of England. But Rory was really regarded as the first Irish guitar player to really set the world on fire. And if you want to see him set the world on fire, you've got to check out, and I mean this, you have to find and check out his band Taste at the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970. And so I just want to stop here for a quick second, because you're going to notice there's a slide here on Rory's finger. And Rory played slide primarily on a Telecaster. He also played it on some of the Dobros and the resonator guitars like we saw in the earlier pages. But this guitar I'm expecting to go for a ton of money. They're estimating it here, you can see, for between $100,000 to $160,000. This is a 1959 Telecaster that was heavily modded by Rory throughout his lifetime, and now they've put it back to stock from what I understand. He played some of the best slide that I have ever heard. So getting back to what I was saying just a second ago, look, and here's more all about this guitar. Oh, and look at this. I was actually wrong about this. This was actually an Esquire to begin with, not a Telecaster, and it was converted from an Esquire to a Telecaster and then into a Telestrat. And what that means is an Esquire does not have the neck pickup. It only has the single bridge pickup. So there would be just a plain pickguard with no cutout for a pickup here on an Esquire, and that would have been the original guitar. Apparently, they've put this back to the Telecaster style, which may have been the way that Rory actually bought the thing originally. It may have already been converted, but it went from an Esquire with just one pickup, just that pickup, to a Telecaster style guitar. with the neck pickup as well, and then into a Tele Strat, which means that there were 3 pickups like Rory used it for when playing slide. Now for any slide players, I just want to show you this because this is really interesting to me. Here in this picture, Rory is using a glass slide on his ring finger, if you can see that right there. And then what I noticed before was on this page before, he was using a metal slide, probably brass, on his pinky finger. So that is really interesting because anybody who plays slide knows that normally you have a preference for just one finger over the other to wear the slide. And apparently Rory used to switch back and forth, or at some point in time in his career, he switched from using the pinky. That looks like it might be an earlier picture than that one. So he switched from using a slide on his pinky to using a slide on his ring finger, which is really interesting to me. This guy was a true virtuoso. Now don't forget, I have more than 70 free guitar lesson videos right here on my channel where I teach the basics and open chords, cowboy chords as some people call them, and all sorts of other stuff, plus blues licks and country licks and all kinds of stuff. But one of the reasons why I really want you to check out that show from the Isle of Wight Festival with Taste is because, as you'll see in that video, which is actually a little bit of a documentary at the beginning, and then it just shows the whole hour-plus long concert. First of all, that was their last show. They got into a big argument right before they went out on stage, and they decided that was going to be their last show. And all Rory apparently wanted to do was play. He wanted to go out and play the show. And so the 3 of them went out. Talk about a power trio. They went out and they played the concert, and it was so incredibly well received. But they played that show with such power and ferocity and ferociousness and whatever you want to call it, anger and whatever else. You could tell that they were pretty pissed, actually, when they were out there on stage. You could just see the angst and the, I don't want to say hatred, because I don't think they hated each other, but there was a lot of emotion going on that stage, and it definitely came out in the music. It actually is one of my very, very favorite concerts to just watch over and over and over again. And there are very few things that I can just watch over and over again myself. But either way, that is a really good example of how things can happen in the music business, I think. One day you are on top and being incredibly well received, and then the next day, or maybe in that case even the same day, you have to figure something else out. And Rory went on to have a great solo career. He kept playing his whole life until he passed away in 1995, like I said before. And unfortunately, he just never really seemed to get the recognition that he really deserved. And I think anybody who hears him play is going to say flat out he deserved more recognition. He deserved to be famous, a lot more famous than a lot of these people that you've heard of. Now, if you're enjoying seeing all these pictures of Rory and his guitars, then please hit like on this video so YouTube will push it out to more people so that they can see it too. I'm really just glancing at it. Oh, and look, here's a great, look at that. Rory Gallagher's legendary 1961 Fender Stratocaster, and there's a great shot of it. It's a little bit in the crease there, but there are going to be a ton more pictures of this thing. And again, if you've never heard him play, here we go. Here are more pictures of him. If you've never heard him play, you have to hear the tone he gets from this. And look, another quote from Joe Bonamassa, Johnny Marr. The man who changed my musical life was Rory Gallagher. I picked up a guitar because of him, Johnny Marr. Think about that. Brian May. It was Rory that gave me my sound. So think about Queen, Brian May from Queen. Queen would not have sounded like Queen if it was not for Rory. It was Rory that gave me my sound. He was just a magician. And here is a great picture of his signature rig, the Vox amp with that 1961 Fender Strat. And they are estimating it to come in between United States currency, $920,000 to $1.3 million. And I would not be surprised at all if it comes in for even higher than that, because my understanding, I've been seeing for months now, there are posts all over the place. The Irish government and different groups in Ireland are trying to raise money, to pool money together to be able to buy the guitar to keep it in Ireland because of what a significant guitar it is for that nation. And I think it would be wonderful if that happened. If it goes to a private collector as well, that's great, and I'm sure that they will cherish it. But I think it would be wonderful for the country of Ireland to be able to keep that guitar on it's soil. Now, as we keep flipping through here, and we're on page 100 for anyone who's wondering, so we're nearing the end, but I do just want to say a couple more things. Something that's really interesting about Rory is he didn't just play the blues. Like, he didn't just copy the American blues players, like, and this is no disrespect, but like some of the British blues players, English blues players, were copying licks and all that stuff. Rory really took it to a different level because he grew up on Irish folk music, and you can hear that in his music, not just his acoustic playing, but even in his electric blues playing. And that is nowhere more apparent, again, than in that show from the Isle of Wight with Taste. And the cool thing about it is you'll hear a lot of embellishments. He played with a lot of passing tones, and you can see some of my other videos, which I'll link here in this description, that talk about passing tones. But those are basically tones outside of the pentatonic scale. Certainly Rory, like all blues players, primarily was basing his solos and his riffing on the pentatonic scale. Look at some of these guitars. Holy And the really cool thing about that is he based his playing in the music that he grew up on, which was Irish folk music. And one of his favorite guitar players who he idolized was a guy named Lonnie Donegan. And you can look him up. He was a great Irish folk singer and guitar player. And the really interesting thing for me is, and maybe I read too much into stuff, but I don't know, I've just got to say, when I was in New York, I played for about 8 years in a group, usually a duo, sometimes a trio, called Big Irish, and I was playing the mandolin in that group. And the core of that group, other than myself, was Mike Donegan, one of my very best friends. Check out this picture in this book. This is for a guitar that was signed by not just Rory, but a lot of other famous musicians, and look at all these people. If you don't know who any of these people are, you definitely need to look them up. Check out their names, and I'm going to move the camera just a little bit to make sure that you can see all their names. And look these people up because they are all incredible musicians. And it's really important that you subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already, because that tells YouTube that I'm doing good things and it pushes my videos out to more people. And the more subscribers I get, the more likely it is that people are going to let me interview them. And you can see all my interviews with some amazing guitar players on here already, but I want to do a lot more and bring a lot more of that stuff to you guys. So thank you for that. And check out more quotes here from amazing guitar players that you know. And thanks for being here in John's Guitar Lounge, everybody. Don't forget, Rory's auction is going to be on October 17th, so check out that website. I'll put a link to it right here in the description to this video. And check out all of my free guitar lessons, and I will see you next time right here in John's Guitar Lounge.